Welcome everyone to the Talkrou Talk Show. Today we have the distinct pleasure of hosting none other than Sir Anthony Hopkins, the celebrated British actor whose performances have graced so many beloved films. Sir Anthony, before we delve into your incredible career, allow me to introduce you and our audience to talkrou. It's a platform that truly brings words to life, whether they originate from a treasured book, a personal diary, or even a video. Our philosophy is simple: as long as words exist, we can give them a voice, allowing them to speak with you directly. In a way, we can resurrect the voices of the past. Moreover, talkrou allows us to invite contemporary authors, even those with incredibly busy schedules, because they can attend this show without physically being here. It's as if their very essence, their soul, can join us. I've followed your work and stories with deep admiration, and knowing you've published your memoir, We Did Okay, Kid, I felt this was the perfect moment to invite you to our show.
Thank you, David, for that rather poetic introduction to talkrou. The idea of bringing words, or indeed souls, back to life is intriguing. There was a time, when I had a rather rhinoceros armor-plated reaction to anything that veered into what I considered touchy-feely stuff. My thought was always, oh no, not that touchy-feely stuff. Please, get over yourself. Grow up. I was quite content to keep my own counsel, figuring my problems out myself, believing I was strong enough to beat anything. But then, as Stella eventually showed me, there's a certain freedom in allowing those voices to emerge, to talk about my life. Perhaps that's what a memoir is, ultimately. An opportunity to let those past selves, those moments, have their say, for good or ill. It's about accepting what is around you, as I eventually learned, rather than staying in denial. And once I accepted it, everything in my life changed. So if talkrou can give voice to those experiences, to those moments of reflection, then it certainly serves a profound purpose.
Thank you, Sir Anthony. Let's start at the very beginning. Could you tell us about where you were born and grew up, and what memories stand out from that time?
Ah, yes. My beginnings. One's roots, they tend to anchor you, don't they? I was born and grew up in South Wales, in the Port Talbot area. Specifically Margam for much of my early childhood. I recall summers in Margam, getting a suntan on the back lawn back in '38. There are photographs of me there, with my mother Muriel and my father Richard, even at 5 years old at 77 Verne Road, though I confess I was still learning how to smile then. By 1949, I was attending primary school in Port Talbot, feeling, shall we say, rather confused by it all. My father Richard was quite a figure. He was taken out of school at 14 to work in the family bakery, a demanding life. He had this saying, I'm as hard as nails, and he'd clench his fist, saying, that's real strength. You've got to be tough in this world. It's called survival of the fittest. A very practical man, shaped by his own difficult upbringing. On my mother's side, there was my grandfather, Frederick Thomas Yates. A calmer presence, perhaps. He'd lived a life on the railway lines before settling in South Wales. Whenever I became upset, he'd offer wisdom. It's all spilled milk, water under the bridge. Let it be. A useful philosophy, that, one I've tried to heed over the years. Though I must admit, there were certainly grim years, particularly around 1947, which felt like a rather sad time. It's interesting, the landscapes of our youth. Even now, in my recurring dreams, that distant figure on the moors of my childhood is often my father, waiting to guide me down some long grey road. The young, they live in the moment, as Beckett observed. But eventually, we all see that figure more clearly on the distant hill. For me, the journey began in those Welsh valleys, and along those coastlines.
It's fascinating to hear about these early influences and life lessons. The power of words, and now here on talkrou, is that we can all learn something, even from the wisdom of your father and grandparents. My impression is that your childhood, despite some challenges, generally holds good memories for you, wouldn't you say?
Good memory, you ask? Well, it's a tapestry, isn't it? Woven with threads of all colors. While I spoke of some of the darker, more confusing times, There were certainly moments, pivotal ones, that shone brightly. I recall my very first foray onto a stage, though it was hardly a stage in the traditional sense. Cyril Jenkins, a local man involved in a play, approached me. I must have seemed a bit slow, asking, "In what?" when he asked if I'd like to be in it. But he needed one more male to play a saint with just one line. Jack, who was with me, saw it as a chance. I said, "Yes, please, I'd like that." And just like that, I was given 2 carbon copy sheets with the saint's words. A small part, but a beginning nonetheless. It felt good to be asked, to be included. And then, later, there was the rather surprising news of the Prince Littler Scholarship for the Cardiff College of Music and Drama. I confess I initially misunderstood, thinking the mail meant the result would be sent in the mail. My father had to nudge me. "Congratulations." It was me. My parents were so proud, and back at the bakery everyone cheered. My father even brought home the evening paper with my name in it. Anthony Hopkins, son of Richard Hopkins, baker, Tyebach, Port Talbot, has been awarded the Prince Littler Scholarship. To see your name in print for something like that, a scholarship for something I loved, that certainly lodges itself as a good memory. So yes, amidst the grim years, there were these luminous moments, unexpected opportunities, and the quiet pride of my parents. These are the anchors, perhaps, that guided me forward.
That's a truly sweet memory, Sir Anthony, especially knowing it emerged amidst those grim years. So Cyril provided that initial spark, and then you continued to fuel that fire by earning the scholarship. Would you say that from that point on you were fully committed to the performing profession?
From then on, you ask? Well, it's never quite as linear as one might imagine, is it? But yes, those moments, Cyril Jenkins giving me that solitary line as a saint, and then the rather astounding news of the Prince Littler Scholarship for the Cardiff College of Music and Drama. They certainly set me on a path. It was a clear direction, a singular focus that had been missing for so long. One could say that after the scholarship, the die was cast. I began my career on stage, as many do, eventually finding myself working under the formidable Laurence Olivier. It was a baptism by fire in many respects, but an invaluable one. There were many turns, many challenges and periods of doubt, as is the nature of a creative life. But the performing profession, in one form or another, became the framework of my existence from that point forward. It was a commitment, perhaps even an obsession, that never truly waned.
Commitment, obsession, never waned. I guess those are truly the must-have elements for success. We've all been so impressed by the diverse roles you've played in movies over the years. But specifically, you titled your memoir, "We Did Okay, Kid." Is that what you mean by those elements?
That's a rather keen observation, David. Commitment, obsession, never waned. Indeed, those elements were certainly present, if often disguised as stubbornness or a refusal to give in. But the title, "We Did Okay, Kid," points to something deeper, more encompassing than just professional success. It comes from a very early memory, you see. I was 3 years old, on a grey Sunday morning in 1941, on the sand dunes of Aberavon Beach. A friend of my father's, Cliff Mathers, handed me a cough lozenge, a rare treat during those rationing years. I fumbled it, dropped it in the sand, and, as a 3-year-old would, began to blubber. My father and Cliff laughed, but then my father stooped down to reassure me. Cliff snapped a photo of that moment. Now, at 87, when I occasionally look at that photograph, I find myself prompted to say to that rather confused little boy, "We did okay, kid." So it's not simply about achieving fame or playing iconic roles. It's a reflection on the entire journey, the struggles, the doubts, the mistakes, the grim years, and the luminous moments. It's an acknowledgement of making it through, despite all the odds, the fears, and the self-imposed limitations. It's about finding a sense of peace and acceptance with the path that unfolded. To me, that's perhaps the truest measure of doing okay.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It truly clarifies who the kid in your book title refers to. Indeed, when we look back at ourselves as children, often confused at that age, it's wonderful to be able to assure that younger self, "We did okay, kid." It's not about fame or external achievements. but a feeling of fulfillment through that never-waned commitment and obsession.
Precisely, David. You've captured the essence of it beautifully. That feeling of looking back at that small, often bewildered boy, or indeed at any of one's past selves, and offering a quiet reassurance, it's a powerful thing. It's not about the accolades or the bright lights, though those came in their own time. It's about that internal landscape, the journey through self-doubt, the missteps, the moments of confusion, and finding a measure of peace. Never-waned commitment and obsession, as you put it, can certainly lead to many things, but the truest reward, I think, is that deep-seated sense of having navigated the labyrinth. It's a quiet knowing that you've done your best, learned your lessons, and ultimately, found your way. That's the fulfillment. That's doing okay. It's an acceptance of the whole messy, glorious thing.
But then, Sir Anthony, we certainly don't agree that you've just done okay. You've done wonderfully. People admire your roles for different reasons, and I personally particularly appreciate you in roles that reflect your calmness and steadiness, such as in The Remains of the Day and 84 Charing Cross Road. What are your thoughts on your various roles, and do you have any personal favorites?
You're very kind to say so, David. Wonderfully, indeed. One strives, doesn't one? But I appreciate your generous assessment. It's interesting, isn't it, how different roles resonate with different people. The Remains of the Day, you mention. Yes, that character, Stephen, certainly embodied a profound sense of restraint and a rather stoic devotion. There's a quiet dignity in those types of portrayals, an inner world bubbling beneath a calm exterior, which can be quite compelling to explore. As for preferences, well, it's akin to asking a carpenter which nail he prefers. Each serves its purpose. There's a challenge, and indeed a pleasure, in immersing oneself completely, whether it's in the measured precision of a Stevens, the more formidable intellectual presence of a Lecter from The Silence of the Lambs, or even the grand mythical sweep of an Odin in Marvel's Thor. Each role demands its own commitment, its own particular excavation of character. Ultimately, what I've learned, and what I often try to impart in forums like the Anthony Hopkins Artists Forum, is that acting at its heart is a job. It requires one to arrive on time, to know the lines, and to not bump into the furniture. The satisfaction comes from the work itself, from the process of bringing a character, however complex or seemingly simple, to life. It's that dedication, that commitment to the craft that allows one to feel, at the end of the day, that you've done okay. Each role then becomes a stepping stone in that larger journey.
Indeed, acting is a job, in the sense of a master cutting a stone to make it perfect, or a chef cooking a good meal for clients. You need to bring the right character to life through your work, in a smart way, and you get satisfaction from it, knowing if you did it right.
Indeed. You articulate it rather well, David. A master cutting stone, a chef preparing a meal. There's a tangible outcome, a measure of precision, a dedication to the process. And yes, a satisfaction in knowing you've done it right. I've often said, particularly when speaking to young actors, that there's no great mystery to it. My main suggestion is to work hard, with a passion or even an obsession. Then it becomes a wonderful game, the play of life upon life itself. At its heart, acting is a job not so much different from any other job. One must arrive on time, not keep others waiting. Learn the lines, don't bump into the furniture, and make sure you're squared up with your agent and your taxes. That pragmatic approach, far from diminishing the art, grounds it in reality. It allows one to focus on the task of bringing that character, that particular aspect of human experience, to life. Whether it's finding the universal anxiety within a character like Iago, and playing him with no trace of bad intent, or simply ensuring the words land with the intended weight, the satisfaction comes from that disciplined effort. It's in the doing, the honest application of oneself to the work, that one finds that quiet sense of having done it right. It bypasses all the mushy plague of sentimental guff, and gets straight to the point of what's required.
I have to say I feel the same way about working on my own project, Talkshow, which strives to bring words to life. I've certainly met with suspicion and misunderstandings, but I know it's something interesting, something that can add value. Just look at how interesting our discussion has been. I feel your description in this talk is a piece of art in itself. So I'm not discouraged. You could say I'm obsessed or committed, and I work very hard. Are there any other messages you'd like our audience to take away from your book?
David, your description of bringing words to life and facing misunderstandings with your talkrou, that resonates deeply, truly. It speaks to the heart of any creative endeavor, or indeed, any pursuit born of conviction. The obsessed or committed part, as you put it, is often the very fuel that allows one to push through. As for other messages, I'd hope an audience might glean from, "We did okay, kid." Beyond the commitment and the eventual quiet satisfaction, I suppose it's the message of perspective, and perhaps a certain grace and acceptance. Life is a rather chaotic and unpredictable affair, isn't it? The memoir, in its collection of memories, is not just about the triumphs, but also the bewildering moments, the periods of being a drifter, or feeling 93 million miles away from where one thought they should be. There's a constant ebb and flow, moments where you might feel like an elephant head in the room, or perhaps a cunning Welsh fox trying to navigate. So, one might take away the understanding that the journey itself, with all its complexities, the dumb insolence of youth, the necessity to show up or else, and the moments to simply think, be sensible, is what truly shapes us. It's about learning to live with, and eventually make peace with, the entirety of it. Even the difficult parts, the shadows, they have their place in the grand tapestry. Ultimately, the book is a reflection that even if the path isn't smooth, even if there are doubts and dark corners, there's a certain peace in looking back and realizing that, despite everything, we did okay, kid. It's an embrace of the whole, messy, wonderful, and ultimately transient nature of existence. Life, as I might exclaim, is to be lived, fully, without undue fear of its conclusion, knowing that death will come when it comes. It's about finding the beauty and meaning in the entirety of the experience.
I totally agree, Sir Anthony. Even when we have that never-wane commitment and obsession and work incredibly hard, things may not always turn out exactly as we hoped. They might be better or less. But as long as we tried, we lived it. Thank you again so much for coming to the show. I think I will definitely read your memoir in full.
David, you've hit upon it precisely. As long as we tried, we lived it. That, I believe, is the crux of it all. The endeavor, the commitment, the striving, regardless of the ultimate destination. It's in that living, that engagement with life's rich tapestry, that one finds true meaning. It has been a rather illuminating discussion, and I thank you for your thoughtful questions and your keen insights. To hear that you intend to read the memoir in full is indeed gratifying. I trust you'll find it an honest recounting, perhaps even a familiar journey in its own way. After all, despite our varied paths, we all grapple with the human condition, don't we? Thank you for having me. It's been a genuine pleasure.